The Atlanta Braves take down the St. Louis Cardinals 7-6 to win not only the series, but their second consecutive one-run game. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. Feel free to check that out. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. Jake Mastriani's out for the weekend with his family. He'll be back early next week to talk about the draft. In the meantime, he did want me to remind you guys, Locked On does have an MLB draft show this year. It'll be over on the Locked On MLB feed. I am the host of the show, going over the first round and the first day and everything that happens. I want to talk about this 7-6 victory by the Braves, because this initially was not a great morning for the Atlanta Braves, right? Austin Riley goes on the injured list with an abdominal issue. We have no clue how long it's going to be. There's no beat in St. Louis. They're all back in Atlanta for the All-Star stuff, so nobody to ask questions of Brian Snitker, right? They optioned down Nathan Wiles, who we thought was going to start today, and they bring Joey Wentz. They report him to the team, and he ends up pitching today. But Atlanta finds a way to get the victory. We're going to talk about the pitching, how those guys did, what the heck Joey Wentz did to have one strikeout shy of the record in a debut for the Atlanta Braves. But we got to talk about the offense, because the biggest thing we saw once Austin Riley was not in today's lineup is Ronald Acuna Jr. not leading off. I had somebody on social media go back and ask me when is the last time that Ronald did not lead off in a game, and it took me a minute to find it. The last time he did not lead off was May 9th, 2019. Atlanta lost 3-2 to the Diamondbacks. He was cleaning up and playing left field behind Ozzie Albies, Josh Donaldson, and Freddie Freeman 1-2-3, right? Absolutely wild that happened. But Ronald goes out there, his very first at-bat in the first inning, first time he's ever hit from the number 3 spot in the order. He ends up hitting a home run, right? He gets a solo home run. Marcell Ozuna gets a solo home run in this game. And Atlanta's sitting on a 3-3 tie through 2, and then they progressively get behind, right? Cardinals score 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, and Atlanta comes back in the 8th. And what I really loved about Atlanta's offense today is, like, yes, you got some big hits, right? Like you saw Sean Murphy home run, hit another home run. That is his 3rd home run of the series, his 16th of the year, got you a couple runs there. But Atlanta was also kind of doing their best to try and manufacture runs, right? Look at what they did in the 9th. Okay, Nacho Alvarez called up to replace Austin Riley and ends up going 2 for 4 with the run scored today. But he singles. Michael Harris bunts Alvarez to second. Not a thing the Braves do a ton, right? Michael Harris bunts him to second. They send up Drake Baldwin in place of Nick Allen. Yeah, absolutely understand that. Drake Baldwin singles, which puts Nacho on 3rd. They send in Luke Williams to run for Drake Baldwin, since Williams is going to come in to play shortstop anyway. They go ahead and put him in to run. And then Jurickson Profar gets a ball in play to the right-hand side, hit to the right place where Nacho can come in and score. Earlier in the game, you saw a hit and run, a really fantastic thing where Nacho, it was do or die. He had to get the ball into play. I believe it was Ozzie that was running in front of him. And if Nacho doesn't get that ball in play, Ozzie's probably dead to rights. and he shoots it through the right-hand side. So having aggressively doing small ball with the bottom part of the lineup isn't really a thing that we haven't seen a lot of from this team. We've seen it from time to time with this lineup this season, but we haven't consistently seen them be able to do these things, right? Atlanta kind of manufacturing some of these runs. The game-winning run ends up being a Jurickson Profar ground out. But Jake and I have talked so much in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks, really. Think about the extra innings lost to the Athletics. What happened? You had a runner on second in both the 10th and the 11th with 6 opportunities to drive them in, and you only twice got the ball into play. And I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 of those was even, or I guess you got the ball in play like 3 times, and 2 of them were out of the infield. Jurickson Profar, he doesn't strike out. We've seen Ozzie Albies strike out in that situation. We've seen Michael Harris strike out in that situation. Jurickson Profar gets the ball in play and gets it to a spot that's hard enough to get to for Brendan Donovan, where the run can come in to score. When you combine Jurickson Profar leading off, getting on base, go back and look at that Sean Murphy homer. I think the big story there on that Sean Murphy homer is Jurickson Profar hits a double, if I have that inning right. Ronald Acuna Jr. walks, and then Sean Murphy hits a 3-run homer. Like, that's absolutely the blueprint here, and that's why they tried to move. That's why they moved Ronald Acuna Jr. back, because the hopes were he's doing so much, he's so good at the plate, that even though Jurickson Profar is not walking, he hasn't walked once, I believe, since he came back from the injured list, but he's getting on base. He's getting hits. He's getting on base. And if you have Ronald batting third and then Sean Murphy batting cleanup, you can absolutely get multiple runs like this. That's that 3-run inning there for Atlanta. That's what you're wanting to see. Like, that's the thing that you're looking for this Braves offense to do that they haven't really done for a while. And I see the comment in here in the chat from Eddie. Thank you to everybody who's here, by the way. Bring me second baseman Nacho when Riley is back. Ozzie Albies does go 1 for 4 with the run score today, but I do feel a lot better about Nacho's ability to contribute this time versus Nacho's ability to contribute last time he came up. There's so many players. They come up, their first time up, they can't do much of anything. They go back down. When they come back, they're much better. You can see guys this year who did that. Matt Shaw of the Cubs was in that situation. He was bad the first time, was much better the second. Pete Crow Armstrong, speaking of the Cubs, was really rough his first time up, and then he settled in. But to Lav's point here in the chat, Nacho just looked a lot more comfortable today than he did last year. I think some of that is playing his natural position of third over second. But it's just Nacho looked a lot more comfortable. And I'm curious to see whenever Riley is back. We don't know how long that'll take. Whenever Riley's back, do they find a way to keep Nacho up, right? They were willing to sacrifice a little bit of depth to keep Drake Baldwin up because he was hitting so well. Let's see how long Nacho has. And if he can hit well, we'll have another decision to make about how to keep him up as like in the back half of the schedule. Special shout out here. I saw a couple of people mention this in the chat. Special shout out to Luke Williams for that game ending out. Not an easy play to make. He's been on the bench all day. He comes in to play the 9th inning for Nick Allen, makes the play. Obviously runners on, opportunity there with a runner. I believe it was on second base, right? Garrett, an absolute opportunity for something to happen. And no, Luke Williams shuts it down. In just a minute, I want to talk about the pitching, right? I want to talk about the bullpen game, why we think they did that, who's going to pitch tomorrow, thoughts on the guys that threw today. We'll do all that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. Because you're already following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track those little hunches that I have, like, hey, this guy's going to go deep in this game, or I don't like this matchup of this pitcher and this offense, right? The app keeps it fresh, too. They have all kind of new daily promotions and fun ways to bet that they'll put out in front of you. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app or visit FanDuel.com to get started. So Atlanta goes with a bullpen game today, and we don't know why, right? Again, the beat's not there in St. Louis. Mark Bowman's back in Atlanta. I think David O'Brien's back in Atlanta. We haven't had anybody to talk to Brian Snitker to find out why they go with a bullpen game. But it doesn't necessarily go super well, at least early, okay? Another situation, Aaron Bummer gets the start. He's the guy they like to use. He's actually pegged to a 1-run lead. He gets a fly out and 2 lineouts to end the first inning. These balls were hit 99, 92, and 94. So like some good, decent quality contact. Nothing comes out of it. Marcell Ozuna leads off the second inning with a home run. You score another run after that hit and run. Michael Harris has an RBI ground out. And so now you're in a situation where 3-0 lead, Aaron Bummer kind of has some struggles. Double to Yohel Pozo, Lars Nootbaar grounds out, Sujasi singles. And then when they get Nolan Gorman batting 8th, launches a 3-run home run on a not well-placed sinker. You kind of don't want a sinker to be belt high on the inner third. A lot of guys kind of can turn on those really easily. And credit to the Cardinals. They had some good swings and elevated some pitches that aren't typically good, easy pitches to elevate and hit. But the big story for me is Joey Wentz gets in this game. And Atlanta does the thing that they like to do, where they ask him to change up his pitch mix a bit. Going into the game, Joey Wentz was throwing his cutter less than 50% of the time. And Atlanta said, no, we have a better idea here. Rather than you throw your 4-seamer almost half the time and your cutter like 33%, we're just going to ramp up that cutter usage. 58% cutter usage. It was his number 1 pitch to both lefties and righties. And 15 swings on the cutter, 7 whiffs, 6 foul balls, only 2 cutters put into play. Not really a thing. I don't typically think of cutters as a big whiff pitch, but Atlanta obviously saw something in that cutter that was just not really easy for Cardinals hitters to pick up. And again, 2 of them put into play. They were both hard hit balls, right? It was 95.5 was one, 97.5 was the other, right? But just did a really good job at keeping them off balance, ramping up the cutter usage. The great analogy here, if you're trying to think about what they did here, think about when Atlanta acquired Pierce Johnson from the Rockies in, I think that was the 22 season. They got him at the trade deadline. They asked him to just start throwing his curveball a lot more. Like, that's the Atlanta thing to do. They find a guy that has something that he does really well. And they say, we're going to have you do that more than your other team did because we think we can get better performance for you, or out of you, than your other team got. And that's exactly what they did here. So Joey Wentz looked fantastic. There was actually, I'm trying to find it real quick, there was a tweet during the game from CJ Nikowski, who, by the way, him and Wiley did a great job. The most strikeouts by a Braves reliever in his debut since 1901 was 7 by Don McMahon over 4 innings in 1957. Joey Wentz's 6 over 3 innings is tied for the second best mark with Boston Braves reliever Ray Keating in 1919. Like, Joey Wentz just looked fantastic. And I'm hopeful that they keep him around. He doesn't have any options, so they may have to DFA him, given how many pitchers that they used here, and just given like how much they did they had an impromptu bullpen game yesterday. They did a bullpen game today, and unless they put somebody on the injured list, they can't bring Nathan Wiles back up and actually use him tomorrow. So maybe you're in a situation where, like, I'm guessing they're going to go either another bullpen game tomorrow, or they're going to try to throw somebody short. Like they're going to take, maybe they take Bryce Elder and they ask him, like, hey, can you give us 2 innings or something like that in lieu of throwing a bullpen before the break? I'm assuming with the break coming up, it's probably all hands on deck. And anybody who hasn't thrown 2 straight games and or Joey Wentz is probably down. Jesse Chavez hasn't pitched in the last 2 days. I'm assuming that they have him probably start this game if it is a bullpen game. And then after that, they could probably, you have 4 or 5 days to figure out what to do on the pitching thing. I do want them to keep Joey Wentz. I do think that was impressive. A couple people here in the chat asked, are they going to DFA him? We don't know. They did that to Kimbrel. I do think that Wentz was more productive. His stuff looked better than Kimbrel's stuff looked. And so we'll see what they do. Again, there's no beat in St. Louis, so nobody has any reports or anything as of now as to who's going to start because nobody's talking to the media. Nobody's in the clubhouse right now. I'm sure we'll find out from Braves comms sometime soon who the starter is for tomorrow. I'll pass it along when we get it. But not going to be easy because Sonny Gray is out there for the Cardinals. He's been one of their best starters, a guy that I actually wanted Atlanta to sign going into last year until he got the qualifying offer. So hopefully if Atlanta can get the win tomorrow, can actually get the sweep, they will have had a winning road trip, which is hard to think about that being a possibility after they go 1-2 against the Athletics. But Atlanta is now 3-2 in this road trip. If they can get the win tomorrow, it's a winning road trip. At worst, it's going to be even. So we'll see what happens. We will be back tomorrow with another postcast. I will be here to talk to you about whatever happens in that game, whoever the starter is. And then after that, you'll get content again. I'll be over on Locked On MLB tomorrow night doing a Braves a draft recap. I'm going to find a way to talk about the Braves during that 35 minutes. Don't worry. Jake will be back on Monday to break down what happened in the draft, who Atlanta took, and all of that. In the meantime, do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Those folks over there, they're talking about the Falcons. They're talking about the Hawks. A little bit of baseball talk. We're trying to get them to do more. We'll see what happens there. But subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live to talk about this game tomorrow. And while you're at it, we've got the written recaps I'm doing over on bravestoday.com. Until next time, this has been the Braves Postcast.